Welcome in to the OKS Youth Ministry Podcast, where three of the OKS Youth Ministers talk about youth ministry. I'm Michael Deese, and I'm joined by Hunter Puckett, Jeremy Crow, and intern Riley. He's in here with us today. Good old intern Riley. That's my intern, Riley Gerard. He will be going to Bear Valley this fall.
Oh,
Bear Valley.
Oh, yeah. The total disrespect when your mic wasn't unmuted yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bear Valley.
The Bear Valley.
Have you ever looked into Heritage Christian University, though? Shameless plug.
Heritage
Fantastic
is a great
school, great professors, great president. As
Actually,
of
one
right
of
now,
our-
he's about to step down, but
One of our sponsors. Right?
and one of
One
our
of-
sponsors.
Uh, it,
I don't think they pay us anything, but
But we,
Yes.
we do want to tell them that they're awesome.
yeah, they are awesome.
Well, actually, they do pay us because they let us go to school there.
oh yeah,
for
that's
very
true.
cheap.
That's true. And like this summer semester is completely free.
Yeah. Well, it's completely paid for.
Yeah,
It's covered.
paid for.
Yeah.
It's not free.
It's not free. Nothing's
complimentary.
free. That's
We
right.
also get complimentary stress and anxiety from it, so it's great.
It is great. So Riley's here, and we are talking about something that he may be interested in. Who knows?
Maybe.
What are we talking about, Jeremy?
So, we talked about last episode about kind of getting established in a new ministry and get involved with a new congregation and what those first couple of years look like. But one of the things that I think often we find ourselves in, whether it be personally or it be the congregation as a whole, is this situation of burnout or church pain, church hurt. And so one of the things that I think we need to talk about and address is, how do we rebuild trust with a congregation, trust with ourselves, trust with our students, all that, after we've been through a hard, painful situation. Because the reality is, ministry is not all unicorns and rainbows, right? Sometimes things go awry, things go bad, people get frustrated, expectations aren't met, whatever. And either you're let go from a position or you leave a position in frustration. And then you've got to, if you're going to pursue ministry after that, you've got some healing to do, right?
Yeah.
And the congregation's got some healing to do.
So how do we do that? We don't.
End of episode.
I'm just kidding.
I like that you hit the music. Okay, so let me start by, I'll put something out there, and this is something that I think is important, and we often don't do this well, is if a church has been through pain, maybe they lost a minister that either was really important to them and, the person had to leave, they moved, be closer to family, whatever, and the church is kind of feeling or reeling from that loss, or the other side of it is the person wasn't so great at the job and they did some bad stuff and the congregation let them go.
Yeah.
When you come into a situation or scenario like that, it would be very easy to let the membership, to let the teens, to let the families kind of talk negatively about the previous guy, especially because a lot of times making the previous guy look bad makes you look better.
That's right. Yeah.
But is that healthy for a congregation?
Of course.
No.
Hit the music. No, no. Like, how do you navigate like dealing with the previous leadership stuff, right, without trashing that previous minister?
Yeah. I always, 100% of the time, try to support the guy that was there before me because he built what we're walking into, whether it's good or bad. He built it up. He worked hard on it, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he was doing his best.
Yeah.
And sometimes, that's one of the things that we need to understand as youth ministers, as ministers in a whole, is that sometimes you're just not going to fit in with a church. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not going to work, maybe your personality just doesn't fit the personality of the church and you just don't fit. And you learn that pretty quick and you understand that pretty quick and this is going to be a pretty good place for me to be. Or I don't know how long-term this is going to be. I worked at a church that was very much like that, where I got there and I thought, this church is not for me. This is not a long-term thing. I want it to be. I would love for it to be. But I had been there for about a year and a half and I recognized I just don't fit here. It's not natural. I'm having to do things that are not natural, where I'm having to come out of these comfort zones and I'm having to do things that I'm not wanting to do, not that I don't think are effective. I'm being asked to do things that I don't think are being very effective or a good use of my time. and the people that are here that are supposed to be helping me are not helping me, or they're not supporting the things that I'm wanting to do. And recognizing that and just saying, this just might not be the best place for me right now. But keeping in mind that the guy that was there before you, that may have been his situation. It just wasn't for him. And it's not that he did a bad job or that whatever. It's just that he just didn't feel comfortable. He didn't feel at home. He didn't feel like he was part of the group. And that just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's hard on us too, especially if it's a church in your area and you have a couple of ministers that haven't really fit in with what's going on around them. And it's tough for that because you'll see one minister leave, the next minister is about to come in. They might ask you like, hey, why'd that person not stay? And it, it sounds very simple. Oh, it just wasn't a good fit. But everybody always wants more information.
Sure.
Right.
Like, why was it not a good fit? What's going on? And sometimes it just doesn't work. And I think we're big advocates on staying places for a long time. There's a lot of great success and a lot more benefit when you stay somewhere for a long time. But oftentimes, and we kind of hinted at it last episode, sometimes maybe the eldership isn't fully honest with what you're walking into. Maybe it's not really something that you thought it would be something different. You thought the grass would be greener on the other side, and you realize, hey, this isn't going to be where I am for a long time. This isn't going to be a good fit. It's not going to be a good fit for my family. Kind of what Michael was saying earlier, you feel like you're walking on eggshells everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And you just know it's just kind of more of a toxic environment than somewhere that you can be yourself and you can minister the way that you want to minister.
Yeah.
I think also with this, not just addressing or talking about the previous leadership guy, but also, not speaking negatively of your previous location.
Yeah.
And that's really hard, right? Because if we're coming to a place, a new job change because we were hurt in some way or we were let go or things just weren't panning out well, and we've been there some, but it's really hard to not be frustrated and have anger and animosity towards that. But that also is unhealthy for your teens to see you belittle or speak negatively of a congregation of the Lord's church, regardless if you were hurt by it or not. The reality is that is still an established congregation that is, being led and ministered to by God, right?
Right.
So
we hope.
We hope, right? Yeah.
But sometimes those things kind of come into the work that you're in, and that happens very often where we have you're doing your work, everything's going well, something happens. It can be a family member believes that you mistreated their kid in some way, or that you are purposely attacking their child or whatever, and trying to find a way to fix that relationship, fix that problem. And I think the number one thing to do in that kind of a situation is to speak with the elders.
Yeah.
Talk with your leadership and tell them about what's going on so that they're aware of it. And a lot of times they're going to trust you with your guidance, and they're going to trust that you can do that. So they're going to allow you to take care of that situation. But in case something happens, where it blows up even bigger or whatever, they need to be in the know. You need to be willing to talk to them, and you need to have an eldership who's willing to listen.
We had a situation like this just a few weeks ago, that we talked about. And I'm not going to talk about that guy specifically, but that called and talked to you and asked for some wisdom and advice from your experiences you've had, right? And so he was going through a conflict. He had a situation happen with some students that was really frustrating to him and to his ministry, and he had to go address it with his eldership and let them know. And so, getting in front of things and being open and honest and transparent with your eldership goes a long way, right? To help heal church pain when it does happen.
I think that's it. It's transparency. It's you being open with your elders. And, sometimes that doesn't come immediately. Sometimes when you just start that work, your elders don't truly trust you at that point. Hopefully they do, but it might take some time for that trust to build up, for them to fully give you the reins and say, hey, whatever you choose, we know that you're doing it in the best interest of this church, of the youth group, whatever that would be. So it might take a little bit of time, but it's also being transparent with your elders, keeping them in the loop, letting them know kind of what's going on.
I mean, even giving them details about, just so that they're more informed. Any way that you can help them be more informed, giving them extra details, more details, and telling them what they need to do or what's going on and how the ways that you're doing things and asking them what you need to do to help that situation.
So one of the things with being transparent about things is we have to be careful of is with our students. Being too transparent about things. And I don't mean that we want to hide things from them, but there's a difference in transparency and oversharing. There's some things that I need to open up and let students know and be aware of, but then there's also things that like I don't need to give them a jaded experience or feeling towards ministry or towards the church, towards the eldership. When I'm hurt or frustrated in a situation, it would be really easy to go and complain to somebody about how mad I am about something the eldership did or said to me or whatever. And that's not healthy for our students. It's not healthy for our ministry, and our church as a whole.
Well, and I think we have a handful of kids in our youth groups that are looking in the future to possibly being ministers. And if we always downgrade ministry, if we always just point out the bad things of youth ministry, why would they want to be a youth minister? Yeah. If we're never talking good about it, if we're never talking it up, if we're not ever saying how great it is and the joys that we get from youth ministry, why would somebody want to follow in our shoes?
And there's a lot more good than bad. There really is.
I kind of get a little annoyed. I got annoyed when I was at Freed-Hardeman when we were talking about the things with them about, they would say things like, if you can do anything else, do it. Yeah. And I disagree with that statement. I disagree with a lot of those kind of statements where they talk about ministry is the hardest job in the world. Like, guys, we need to take a step back and we need to quit convincing the people who are interested in becoming ministers that they can never do it.
Yeah. This is not rocket science.
I mean, seriously, this is a great career. I love my job. It's a lot of fun. I get to work with people all the time. There are some downsides to it, but youth ministry is the best job in the world. You know, I love what I do. I love getting to work with students, and I love everything about it. And it's very easy to look at all of the negatives. And maybe it's a church, they treated you wrong. Maybe some families treated you wrong. Maybe you're being accused of things that you never did, and whatever it is. Yeah, that stuff happens, but that stuff happens in every career and every job that you're in. But in ministry, it is the best job. It is incredible. It's awesome, and it's somewhere that we should be talking up, because right now, youth ministry as a whole is how many Bible majors did we, or how many youth ministry majors or Bible majors did we have from Harding last year? I think it was like 4.
Yeah.
I think 4 Bible majors from the whole class last year from Harding. And then from Freed-Hardeman, their numbers are really down. Their numbers are lower.
Faulkner's are going up a little bit with that Zorn scholarship. They're doing a great job over there.
They are.
But it's still down, across the board.
Yeah. And we're just not graduating ministers. And it's because of
Heritage
like
is that. Because that's the only option.
That's right. Heritage Christian University in Florence, Alabama.
Killing it.
A recent sponsor. So one of the things that I would say too,
they're not a sponsor, just so everybody knows.
Not a sponsor,
but we do love them.
Not a rapper.
Yes, we do.
And if they want to be a sponsor, hit me up.
And if Kirk wants to pay for us to play in his golf scramble next year, he can also do that.
Yeah,
and I will not participate.
Michael will play.
I do think though that one of the things that's happening in that, and what we're talking about here, we're addressing some of this is, Steve, our preacher was talking to one of the folks at Lipscomb about like why are we seeing that decline in ministry roles, and he said it's because of the way that congregations and elderships have hurt and abused ministers in the past, and what's becoming more known or more prevalent in those conversations from the ministers to congregants, and people are becoming aware of that, and they're kind of deterring their kids from pursuing that kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
and I get it, but at the same time, the church needs people who are willing to serve in this kind of role.
I mean, I had a kid who was, perfect for ministry. I think he would have been one of the best, but his dad more or less told him, no, you can't do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it. We're going to have to find something else to do.
Well, it's
a good kid. It's a good kid, good family, great dad. But he just has seen too much, I guess.
Well, from parents' perspective, it's a hard sell. But let's say, pre-heritage with that, the Zorn scholarship, those things help out tremendously. But from a Freed-Hardeman perspective, you're a parent, you're telling your kid, hey, let's go to this school, let's get in this school debt so you can be a minister. That's a fantastic thing. I tell people all the time, there's yet to be a day in the past 10 years I've woken up and not been excited to go to work.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the greatest joy in the entire world. but it does come with student debt. In order for you to be a minister, you're going to have to go to one of these colleges. And if you're going to a university, it's a private Christian university, and there comes with a cost. And once again, the Zorn Scholarship at Faulkner, Heritage doing so much for their students as well. It really helps out, and that speaks volumes in them wanting to see more ministers in the world. Yeah. But it is a hard sell for some people, but it definitely doesn't help when we're seeing a lot of hurt from ministers in the church. We're seeing ministers maybe only point out the negative things of the side of it. And then also for youth ministry, nobody ever really talks about the youth minister.
Yeah.
Not that I want to be praised, but
I do. I want to be praised.
But think about it. But think about the opening prayers. Who do they pray for? They pray for the elders. They pray for the preacher.
Yeah.
That's it. Every now and then you'll have a youth minister. Shout out Asa. He prayed for Chris and myself this past Sunday.
Hey, there was one time where somebody
it's mostly
prayed,
the preacher.
Yeah, they prayed for the preacher. They prayed for the secretary. I mean, they prayed for everybody. Didn't pray for me. I was like, okay.
Going back to dealing with your church hurt.
Prayed for the dead fish that passed away. And
like, yeah. And so that was really funny because I called him out on it. It was one of my youth deacons, and I called him out. He was like, "Oh no, did I do it?" And I was like, I was just joking.
Let's talk about on a personal level. When you are experiencing this spiritual burnout, right? We talked about churches going through hurt and all that, but let's talk about personal. And this is going to be a little bit more intrusive, but that's okay. How do you recharge, rebuild, keep this desire for ministry when you've been hurt?
Dude, listen, shout out to Brandon Presnell. Presnell. So he worked at East Coleman Church of Christ before it became Coleman Church of Christ. He was the youth minister there. I was a little bitty, like I'm talking probably 10, maybe younger. And I had two brothers that were in the youth ministry stuff, and Brandon was awesome. He was great. Me and him have been friends since that day. You know, I've always looked up to him. But there was one time I had just been through a lot, and I had gotten to this point where my wife and I we were just very upset.
Sure.
I don't know.
Been through a lot with church or
yes,
personal?
with church, and personal. You
Sure.
know, I mean,
Well,
that's kind of
personal.
it kind of led to it. And I was like, man, should I just be rethinking about what I need to be doing? You know, should I go into a different area? Should I go into a different field? And Brandon Presnell came to me and he said some of the best things. I actually told Riley this his first day and I've told this to every intern basically. And I was just oversharing everything with him. I knew it was a safe place, you know, and so.
Wait, with Riley or with Brandon?
With Brandon.
Okay.
And I was oversharing stuff, and I was talking bad about the elders and everybody. And
you were hurt.
I was very hurt, and he took me to the side, and we talked in a private room. This was at Lads Leaders in Nashville, and he said something that has stuck with me for this is the thing that keeps me going. He said, Michael, I want you to know you're doing a great job. And he said, do you know how I know you're doing a great job? And I was like, I don't know, because you know me. I don't know, And he said, no, I think you're doing a great job because God thinks you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
He said, you're not working for the elders. You're not working for the preacher. You're not working for your mom and dad or the members or the kids. You're not working for the church. You're working for God. And what does the Bible tell us about things that we do for God? It says, anything done in my name is not done in vain.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter about what other people think about you. It doesn't matter what the church thinks about you. It doesn't matter what any of that stuff. None of that matters, because what does matter is that God recognizes the work that you're doing and he appreciates it and he loves you for it. Because anything that you're doing is helping him, is getting the word out, is spreading the gospel, is encouraging people who are hurting. Mm-hmm. And that's what should keep you going. That's the thing that has kept me going as long as I've been, is just that constant reminder, God is there and he appreciates what I'm doing.
Galatians 6:9. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up.
And sometimes it does get weary doing good, and knowing, be the better man. You're always told, be the better man. Sometimes I don't want to be the better man.
Sometimes I just don't want to do it.
Sometimes I just
lay into people.
Yeah, and in my head that says that's what needs to happen to this person. This person needs somebody to blow up on them, and that's not always true. I would say it's definitely untrue more than it is true. to find that be the better man. Just accept it and move on, and know that you're doing that not because that's what they deserve or what that person needs or what. It's because that's what God wants you to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's realizing that the church, God's church, is perfect. The people in the church are imperfect.
That's right.
We're seeking a perfect God, and we have to realize that the eldership's decisions are not always going to line up with our decisions.
Sure.
The choices of the church are not always going to line up with our choices, and that happens, and that's okay, and we can deal with it. But we have to understand is God is in control. Like Michael said, God is the one that we are answering to. Well, we're here to serve Him. We're here to worship Him. We're here to spread His word. No matter what the elders are thinking. Now we still follow our elders and do that, but at the end of the day, we're answering to God as well.
Okay, so let me pose this, Hunter. I'll ask you, what does emotional, spiritual health look like for you right now in your congregation? What does that look like for you?
Oh, emotional, spirit, health.
Health, yeah. Like what would be a sign that you're in a healthy place, I guess?
Man, I'll tell you what, and I just joked about it, but when people do pray for you, and they let you know, and not outside of the church setting itself, but we have this guy, he shows up, and he has some mental health issues. He lives down the road, is Mr. Todd is what we call him. And every single church service, he comes up to me and says, could you feel that I've been praying for you this week? And it's the coolest thing, because awesome. And it's like, man, like, have I felt that Todd's been praying for me this week? And that's something that keeps me going. And it's just the atmosphere of the church. Something that I really love about Flint that's really kept us there is just, it's a real family oriented church. Yeah. Everyone is there for each other. We're not there just to check a box and leave immediately, but like there are people there that truly care about you. Yeah. And there should be, hopefully that's at every church. But for Flint, it's just like, if a visitor walks in, they're not leaving before 5 or 6 people stop them before they reach the door. Right. I mean, people want to get to know you. From my viewpoint, it's a healthy congregation. Are there imperfections? Absolutely. Are there issues that I've dealt with over the past 10 years? Yes. Have I butted heads with elders before? Yes. But it's been something that we've been able to get past and understand that, hey, this isn't permanent. It's not personal. It's not permanent. And we're going to get past this situation, whatever that might be.
So I think it was you that may have said this, Hunter. I don't remember. One of y'all said that your wife said, how's your prayer life going? Like called you out on when things weren't going well. Was it you that your wife said, hey, something's changed in your prayer life, right? Recognizing that within you. One of the things Michael told me about, I think it was Spencer possibly that you worked with, that would just occasionally pray for you and like send you a message to be like, hey, I prayed for you today. I took away from that. I started doing that with students. Like when I would pray for a kid, I would send them not as I want you to praise me or brag on me for having done this, but I want them to know that someone is actively praying for you today. And I think that there's some spiritual health in praying for others, and also encourage them by knowing someone is praying for you. And so that's something that I've put into practice because of what you had said about Spencer.
Yeah, there's a lady that goes to church here. I'll just read you some of the messages that have been. This is mine and her back and forth on text messages. Just want you to know you're loved and you've been covered in prayer today. Have a wonderful week. Good morning. You've been covered in prayer today. Please enjoy this beautiful sunshine. I mean, happy Monday. Just letting you know. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'm praying for you. And that is the kind of stuff that when you are, whatever, if you're in a situation where you're in a bad spot or you're feeling down and then you receive a message like that, that's encouraging, knowing that somebody's praying for you on a weekly basis. Every Monday morning, around 6:30, I get a text message that says, I'm praying for you. Every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month, I get a message from Spencer Furby that just says, hey, it's a beautiful Tuesday, and I just want you to know that you're loved, and I care for you, and I'm praying for you, and here's some specific things that I prayed about.
And you know how that makes you feel, right? I know how it makes me feel when I hear that. How much would it mean to our congregants, to our teenagers, to our elders, if we were doing that in consistent ways, and saying to them, hey, you were on my prayers this morning, right? Yeah. How much would it matter to the health of our congregation, the spiritual health, emotional health of our congregation, for us to cover people? I love she said you've been covered in prayer today. That's cool.
Yeah. Also, Matt Miller does that too. He sends me a text message fairly often. And at least once a month that says, I'm just praying for you, praying that you're a blessing, you know.
Yeah, Matt's awesome. But I'll tell you what, that really helps from the ministry side, from our perspective. That really helps the burnout side.
Yeah.
When your church is cheering you on, when your church is praying for you, when your church is there supporting you and your family, that's going to keep you there. That you don't want to find another church.
Even if things are hard and things aren't going well, there's value in being somewhere where your family's loved.
Yeah.
And we say we don't want to talk down on ministry, but that is ministry. There are going to be hard times in ministry. Yeah. There are a lot better times. There are a lot of glorious times. The light, you know, it's always shining bright in ministry. But there are going to be times that you are challenged in ministry, and it's going to challenge your family. It's going to challenge you. It's going to make you, and sometimes you're going to come out of this a better minister. Yeah. Sometimes it's really going to hurt.
We have we've talked about a lot of the church hurt side of things. So let's try to bring that around to this burnout side of things. The idea of what burnout is. So, Jeremy, tell me what burnout is, and then tell me one way that you combat against burnout.
So sometimes you have burnout and you don't leave, right? You just get in a place where you're burnout and you stay and you work through it. Burnout might look like symptomatic of depression.
Yes.
Like you get you go to a state of anxiety, of depression, of frustration. You're easy to react to people in big ways, to little things. You know, something small, catalyst thing sets you off, and you blow up on somebody about something that really wasn't worth blowing up about.
Yeah.
That's indicative of burnout. For me, when I start to experience or feel burnout, part of it is when I feel not necessarily lack of support from home, but frustration from home. And I don't mean that in a negative way towards my wife or my kids, but when they start to say things like, you've got to leave again, or you've got to go on this trip again, or that creates burnout for me.
Oh yeah, 100%,
because
a billion percent.
For like this summer, I've dialed back a ton of what we did on trips and things because my family was experiencing the burnout with me in ministry.
Same, bro.
Last summer. And so I addressed that, right, to an extent, because it is debilitating to your ministry leaders when they feel like their family is being hurt by you being in ministry. And so that creates burnout for me. When there's times when I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, maybe I'm trying to do things, I'm doing activities, I'm trying to lead good study, and I'm trying to have more events and activities and service, and the kids are not all in, right?
Yeah. Or the leadership's not in.
Yes, and we've had those kind of moments. We've had those moments at Coleman at times. We're in a great place right now where leadership as a whole is really behind youth ministry. The students are on board. The parents are following where we're leading. But there's been times where it hasn't been, and it can create some of this burnout. You find yourself in those moments going, I wonder what else I could do for a job. What else would make money, and I could get out of this frustration. When the reality is, you're going to have frustration no matter what you do, right? You got something deeper to deal with than just the circumstances that are causing the frustration. But yeah, those are a couple of indicators, I guess, that I'm experiencing a burnout or frustration.
I think one way with that idea of burnout is like the boundaries that you draw between your work and personal life.
Yeah.
And I do think we do need to be available 24/7. I think that's something that's important. I think that's part of what comes with a job. But there's also time where when you take vacation, you need to take vacation. If you're at Disney World and one of the parents calls and says something, you're not going to pack up and go home.
Right.
You're going to stay on there and say, hey, I'll deal with it when I get back. But finding those boundaries and making sure that you're following through. I have a problem with this because I want to help. That's my main goal. I want to be able to help people, and I've had phone calls that have been life-saving. I mean, where I answer a phone call and it saves someone's life. There's been times, and I'm constantly. This could be something like that.
This could be that call.
This could be that call where
contemplating suicide, and I need to talk to him right now.
Exactly, and so I'll answer a phone, but really it's just a kid wanting to talk. Just like, hey man, you want to go fish tomorrow? Something like that. And
sorry, I'm at Disney.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through the Tower of Terror right now.
That's right. So like, you can't but making sure that when you do draw those boundaries, you follow through, Yeah. And I'm really bad about that. Again, I want to help, and
Same.
I want to, and I even feel guilty when something's happening and I'm not involved in it. I feel guilty, and I'm like, I feel bad that I should be doing that. Just for an example, just this week, by the way, y'all need to come check out the fort downstairs.
Okay.
Because it's awesome. Just this week, a family came in and they were just sending me pictures. We've had this plan for what we're going to do with the fort, and that's like the youth room that we have.
Yeah,
here.
I was going to say, is this like a pillow fort?
And,
what kind of fort?
So it's the youth room, and so we've kind of done some stuff. I had one of the.
Are you moving it, or is it still in the same spot?
Same spot.
Okay, so you just updated it.
Yeah, I had one of the youth group kids come in and take out some stuff that they had put up, and it looked way better. And then we were talking about taking out this stage and doing stuff and painting and all this stuff, and it had all been kind of a dream. And somebody said, at Maywood, hey, what's your plan for this? Do you have, and I kind of shared with them, and they were like, okay. And then this week they sent me pictures, and they had taken up the stage, they had painted everything, and I was like, I want to help, but I was like, no, today's my day off.
Yeah.
I need to keep this as my day off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
I'm bad at that.
I'm not going to do that. This is my day off. And they actually even said, the family said, I just want you to know, this is happening. This is great. Enjoy your day off.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I need to be a part of this. I need to be helping. I need to be doing, I need to.
It looks bad if I'm not there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm feeling guilty about it. But this family is just wanting to be a blessing to the youth group, to the church, to me, they don't have any resentment, but I still feel that like, I need help. I need to do that. And so one of them texted me on Saturday and just said, hey, come check it out, whenever you have time. And I was like, I'm on my way, and that was a really cool, thing to get to see. But
we had something this week that it was a children's ministry activity, and my kids are part of that, and they get to be blessed by that. And our family, are part of that. But we were getting done with the event, and, Jessica was like, hey, let's go ahead and head out. And I was like, well, we got to put up tables, and we got to do this, and we got to do. I was like, we got to sweep. She's like, this is not your event. You're not in charge. She was like, you're not in charge of this. She said, you can leave. And I said, I know, but I just feel like, there's just work going on. I should be here helping. She's like, no, you can, but you don't have to be, right?
Yeah.
You do all your other youth stuff. You can do those things, but take a minute and step away. Let somebody else. And it wasn't that she didn't want us to help. It was like this idea of, and our wives are so much better at this than us, of protecting that family space and your soul in this way, because we just feel this strain to, I've got to make everybody happy. And it's so hard to not want to jump in on everything that's happening and be a servant.
Yeah. I've always said it as a joke, or especially early in ministry, but it was, if the devil's working, I'm working. And that meant like I'm working every single day to do something. And then as I matured and realized, hey, maybe the devil's not taking a day off. Maybe he will take this day off. So I take Thursdays off. And I try to really not do anything on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I make sure the devil's also taking Thursday off as well.
That's right.
But, because if you work every single day, you're going to get burnt out really quick. If you don't have a family supporting you, you're going to get burnt out really quick. If you don't have a church supporting you, you're going to get burnt out really quick. Whatever that is, you're trying to make sure that everybody's supporting you, that you're doing what you're supposed to do, but at the same time, everybody else understands that. Especially when it comes to our families, they understand how busy we are. They understand that the summer is going to be busier than the rest of the times, and that's when we're going to have a lot of our trips and things like that. And they understand that too. But then it's also up to us. I like what Jeremy said. It's up to us to make sure that we do maybe take a step back, especially when our family feels neglected, to make sure we're there with our family, because we are ministers to them as well.
And you got to listen for those little cues, like when your kids like say stuff like, hey, are you going to be here tonight? Are you? Yeah. And it's like, okay, I got to take a step back. Like my family is feeling the strain, right? Yeah.
And I've apologized to our youth group saying, hey guys, listen, I have Brooklyn now. She's 3. I'm still learning what it is to be a dad and a youth minister. There are going to be some things that change. Some things are going to stay the same, but she's my priority.
Yeah.
And I am focused on her before I'm focused on this. If she's getting her spiritual nutrients, then I'm able to do this too, but I'm not going to neglect her just to be here.
And we've talked about that on a previous episode about family. I think you are doing ministry for your students when they see you choose your wife and your children over your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that you always make the choice, but they need to see that there's moments where you say, this is my priority and I'm going to choose this.
To talk about a little bit of this church hurt idea, I said that to a deacon at one of the churches. I said, I think it's more important for me to make sure that things in my household, that my family are good, that everything's good in that situation, than it is for me to make sure that my kid, the youth group and all that stuff are in a good place. And I said, it's important for them to see a healthy family.
Yeah. A good father,
good husband, good wife, good kids being raised up by the person that's leading them. I said, that's a good thing. That's important to me.
It's ministry.
For our students to see it. I think it's ministry. And he said, yeah, you've said that a lot. I'm tired of you saying that. And then moved on.
And I was he's just not having home devotionals with his kids, and his kids are only getting fed at church, and same thing with everybody else.
And an elder agreed with it, and we're just like, we think it's more important that you do stuff with our students here at the church and stuff. And I was just like,
you're wrong.
No, you're wrong. And I told him that.
Churches looking, we'll find something.
I was like, no, you're wrong. And again, that's that church hurt thing there. Yeah. And I remember there was a moment where this was at Sitka Singing in like 2015, so probably. I gave a lesson, and it was the most perfect lesson.
Of course.
And yeah, that's right. For the time that I was in, the season that I was in. Things at the church that I was working at, things were just not clicking, and I was kind of grieving having to leave there. And I had already accepted that I was going to have to leave. Nobody had asked me to or anything like that, but I had just accepted this probably isn't going to be a long-term thing, and I need to start looking for another place. And I got asked to speak at this Sitka Singing thing, and I went and I did the lesson there, but it was the perfect lesson for the time that I was in. And as soon as I finished, I got down and everything, and they talked. The song that was led as like the invitation song was "Thou, O Lord, are a shield about me."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just like, I'm trying to stand in front of everybody and keep it together, and I'm like taking people as they're coming forward, the invitation thing, and I'm trying to stand in front of people and just keep it together.
Yeah.
Because I could not keep it together. It didn't matter what I did. And I was like, oh Lord, I couldn't do it. And I was just like up there crying because I had accepted that situation, This is going to probably be one of the last events that I do here, And but singing that song, then I went back and I read the scripture, that's Psalm chapter 2. And I think it's a incredible scripture here because this is David. He's running away from his own son who's trying to kill him and take the throne from him. Okay? And he's writing this, and David is saying, there's so many people that are rising against me, even my own family. And then it says, but you, O Lord, are a shield about me, my glory and the lifter of my head. And I've cried aloud to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy hill. And I think that's a great thing to cling on to, that God cares about the situation you're in, and that he is the shield that's going to protect you. He's going to lift your head. When your head starts hanging down, God lifts it up and says, you're one of my children. And this is something that's important. And so
let me ask something kind of to move us, I guess, towards the end here. When you've hit those kind of moments, that's, you just pointed to one, right? That God is my shield, right? So Hunter, for you, when you hit the hard season, when something is not going right, you're frustrated, you're experiencing burnout, what characteristic of God do you cling to?
I'm going to change it a little bit.
Okay.
Not to throw you a curveball, but we see Jesus doing this a lot, and it's going away and praying, getting off by yourself, not being surrounded by people, but actually stepping away and being away from everything so you can pray. I find myself doing that a lot as well.
Yeah. Got it. Edit. Okay, so wait, 3. Yeah, so I do think going away and praying, this for me, one of the things, I'm a very musical person. I like singing. That's something we've talked about before is worship songs. I absolutely love the goodness of God lyric. All my life you've been so faithful. All my life you've been so good. with every breath that I'm able, I will sing of your goodness, right? And
right.
so I really dig into that. Like that song, yeah, it's a pretty song, and I like the melody and I like hearing kids sing it and all that. But the message of saying, "You, Lord, are faithful to me in all of the brokenness and all the pain and all the frustration." It's awesome. So,
Michael.
All right. Well, I think that's all, right? Do we have anything else we want to talk about on this subject? Riley, do you have anything that you want to add in?
Yeah, I would love to add something.
Yeah, dude, come on in.
Get in this mic, double mic.
So,
Well, hey,
does that sound good?
maybe we need to buy extra mics.
No, we don't. They're expensive.
So, I cannot stress just how important y'all's discussion on this is. Like, I've personally experienced watching a minister, be burnt out from, church factors, but it very much so is a personal thing. It's a personally felt occurrence. And, even in my own life, in a past internship at Skyhawks for Christ at UT Martin, the best campus ministry ever.
Shout out.
Go Scogs.
Not a sponsor yet.
Yet, but hopeful. So that whenever I have felt burnt out from, there's always going to be drama, and there's always going to be just those external and internal factors of leading to burnout, and you're going to feel at times like, hey, you're going to question, or I've questioned rather, is what I'm doing making a difference? Like,
Oh, yeah.
And so, whenever I feel that way, I really enjoyed what y'all said about just how important encouragement is from people, and just how important encouragement from us to other people is. Like, we may not know how important our encouragement is to some people, but just doing it means everything.
Yeah.
It means so much. One thing that I look to whenever I feel burned out is God's love, because, I take a moment to recognize that the love from people, it's going to waver, and, everyone's not perfect. I'm going to be shown, resentment or hostility or criticism, and I felt those at times, but whenever I feel those things, I always turn back to, okay, they're not perfect, but I turn to God's love, and I'm like, okay, I know that what I'm doing, kind of like what you said, Michael, what I'm doing is for God. It's very much so for Him, and I know that as long as I'm using my discernment and listening to the Holy Spirit within me on the matter of God is the center of my actions and my decisions, and when I have faith in that, I'm uplifted. And
Yeah.
I think that's just so crucial. So I really thank y'all for talking about this.
That's coming from Riley, the man, the intern, the best intern in
Riley
North
the
Alabama.
intern.
And let's say this,
Riley the intern.
He hadn't contributed a whole lot until the very end there, but he's been doing some really good head nodding.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like when somebody's in the congregation going, "Yeah, come on, amen."
Oh, man,
I've been
we had
seeing it
one
out of the
of-
corner of my
just hyping
eye.
us up.
We had one of those at Sunday night, and the speaker was up there, and they were like, "Come on." Oh, Lord.
All right.
Jesus. Oh, it was great. It was
Yep.
awesome. Good times, man.
That grandma was
Good
awesome.
times.
Well, that's going to do it. Riley, thank you for your input. Focus on
Thank you,
God's
Riley.
love. That's awesome. That's a great sentiment there. Make sure to check us out on our website, on our social media pages. Like and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button.
Smash. Ring the bell.
And if you,
there a bell?
Heritage, if you want to be a sponsor, here we are.
Is there a bell?
Also, if you are a youth minister and you have kids that are graduating out of your youth group, there's also another opportunity this summer to send them to Lift University at Maywood Christian Camp. Please do go check that out. It is on the Maywood website. See what it has to offer. We have a handful of different college ministries there, and maybe you have one of your kids that's going to go into that college ministry. This is a great time for them to get to know them a little bit more before they go off to school.
Definitely. Yeah. Lift You is awesome.
So please do check out Lift You.
Check it out. Check it out.
Check it out.
We hope that your ministry is blessed.
We do.
Thanks for joining us today in the important conversation of youth ministry. Go and follow us on Instagram and check out oksyouthministry.com for more information about our upcoming episodes. We'll be dropping a new episode every Wednesday morning, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. And hey, it's okay to be the OKS youth minister around, but let's all strive to be just a little bit better.